has had it all along. They just pulled the card out of their sleeve. They're fucking wild.
And it's there's no way of knowing because now anyone can work on that in their garage, really, right?
No.
Or it does not work like that.
It requires an extensive amount of resources. This is basically, we're talking about infrastructure comparable to the Manhattan Project. That's the only real historical precedent, I'd say, compared to this. You need an entire national infrastructure or mega corporation with an entire global infrastructure or something like that to complete a project of this magnitude, because the solid state physics required in solving some of the problems right now is fucking crazy.
What up, Vigilantes? I'm here with Adam Corbo. We're going to talk about Monero being quantum resistant. Is Monero right now quantum resistant? Yes or no?
No.
And do you foresee a future where Monero is quantum resistant?
Yeah, if there's enough work done on it, the protocol. There's a couple of different, lattice-based, multivariate, a couple of other replacements that could be quantum resistant that could be implemented, certainly.
So at what stage, and maybe you can talk about in qubits or whatever, or in what span of time would you think that the Monero protocol would be under threat?
Really, we don't really know what the cutting edge is because of the secret nature of what it would be. But right now, IBM is saying they have about 120 qubits. That's, I think, the largest publicly available quantum computer. At about 512 qubits, it might be. It depends on whether the noisy qubits or there's a couple of unknowns we don't know about it. If at that many qubits you can break a discrete log problem with elliptic curve cryptography, which is what Monero utilizes. So that may be 5. So anywhere between 3 years to 3 decades. So sometime within that time window. Unless someone's already got one, and then it's like Jeff Bezos at his Volcano Mountain lair, just be you know what, I'm gonna take everyone's Monero today, and then suddenly you wake up. You'd probably break down the entire. If I had a quantum computer, there'd be a lot more things on fire than just Monero, to be honest. Yeah, but it's really crazy to think about what would that world even look like? You wake up tomorrow morning and it turns out that somebody has had it all along. They just pulled the card out of their sleeve. They're fucking wild.
And it's there's no way of knowing because now anyone can work on that in their garage, really, right?
No.
Or it does not work like that.
It requires an extensive amount of resources. This is basically, we're talking about infrastructure comparable to the Manhattan Project. That's the only real historical precedent, I'd say, compared to this. You need an entire national infrastructure or mega corporation with an entire global infrastructure or something like that to complete a project of this magnitude, because the solid state physics required in solving some of the problems right now is fucking crazy.
All right, so the thing is that I obviously just showed you guys where my mind is in terms of computer science in comparison to you, where you see the big pictures and you understand what is being worked on and what the potential could be as close as up to 3 years from now, which is wild. So does that mean we have 3 years to get something done in order to be conservative about this?
I would, if you want to be really conservative, of course, on the time frame that I think there's definitely a bit of an arms race between post-quantum cryptography and quantum computers being developed right now, and you can 5 years, 3 years, 10 years. As soon as possible is probably obviously the best answer. But when we really have to start, I'd say start to actually really have it on your mind 3 years from now. So I'd say there's a little bit of a grace period right now, but I think you definitely should be thinking about it 3 years from now, if not implementing it.
What steps have you seen the Monero community take in the direction of safeguarding against this?
So for one thing, there's I think one of the things we uncovered in the audit was that there's one-time key addresses. Using private keys, but using one-time private keys is a useful tactic because that adds an extra layer to protection to some degree. And then there's so many different factors involved, honestly. But there's a couple of little tiny low-hanging fruits that are useful to take into consideration. Switch commitments, Peterson commitments, etc., etc.
Okay, right on. So, understanding your research, how would you gauge your personal feelings towards it? Do you find yourself hopeful, or on one end hopeful, or on the other end kind of like in despair, like shit, we gotta figure this out now?
It's kind of exciting, to be honest. I'm excited about the technology of quantum computers in general because just thinking about I touched on it briefly in my talk about how just thinking about the future, whoa, the quantum internet is a possibility that could happen within our lifetimes. Of just and what that would even mean on a global scale is really wild. In some cases, yeah, the technology of quantum computers. Talking about cryptography though and privacy and stuff like that, it's definitely a bit concerning. It allows it's kind of we know there's it's I don't know. I live in California, so it's there's earthquakes all the time. You never know when the hell it happens, and you're just it's just kind of funny because you really actually Hawaii I think is a good example of this. If you've ever been to Hawaii, there's literally people that just rent volcano insurance and shit, and so they build these giant cities. And with the knowledge that every 30 years just goes bam, all the magma comes, wrecks everything. I think the most surprising thing is that we're getting a few commercial applications right now with combinatorial optimizations and a couple other protein folding problems and stuff. Something I was talking about is if you have enough qubits, it could be that it breaks down at some point, but who knows? This
is wild. Do you know how are there a lot of people doing this research in Monero?
On making it quantum resistant?
Yes.
So I think who was one of the people that talked earlier? Sarang, I believe. Yeah, he gave a talk about how basically if you had a quantum adversary. The funny thing is given the probabilistic nature of bulletproofs, I think it's kind of just very. You could have some really, because that was something I was actually interested in when I asked him a question, which was could you tell if someone inflated the total Monero supply? Would you be able to tell whether it was done by a fancy computer, quantum adversary, or if it was just somebody just happened to pick the right number at the right time, And the fact that there's no answer for that, and at least he didn't provide an answer for that. Who knows? Fascinating, scary, and exciting to have this conversation. Where can we follow your research? We have it, the paper itself, which I did with 2 other people, the technical paper should be I think it should be on GitHub under the Monero CCS. I forgot the exact link for it, but it is there. You can read it, and we also had a Reddit AMA, and you get the resources are all publicly available online, and feel free to go into it, dig into it. But I think the math definitely checks out. The main assumption, the main thing is can you basically decrypt it with on-chain data, de-anonymize it, and that's kind of the open question, which we don't really have a good answer to. Yeah. Well, we're gonna be here to support your research, and yes, keep going, man. Thank you so much for doing what you do. It means a lot to everyone watching, to the community in general, and for everyone else that's been helping you out in this research as well. Everyone that helped you with the research, awesome. Thank you. Tell them thank you on our behalf as well. We all really appreciate it. Any words? Any parting words? Because I know you're tired, and I want to cut it short. I'm so tired. Yeah. I slept in 3 days. I'd like to thank Mitchell and Brandon, both of them who I worked on the project. They're definitely very incredible to work with and such. That's all I have to say. Awesome, Andrew. Yeah. And of course, thanks for Monero Talk and everyone hosting. Awesome. Thank you for being with us, Matt.